It is always my favourite episodes when the main club, Watford FC, gets brought back into contention. And today we've got a guest all the way from Australia. So Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And of course, Harry Hennings. How's things going?
Really good. Look, honestly, can't wait for this one. All the way from Australia. So Adam, thank you for the commitment. Obviously, I know the time difference is quite mad as well. So we thank you for that.
Nah, of course. It's great to be here. 100%.
So, my first question is probably a question that Harry and I would both be very, very eager to ask is, why on earth have you chosen to support Watford when you're all the way in Australia?
Yeah, certainly one I get a lot. Well, I didn't grow up watching the sport, actually. I'm 20 years old. I grew up watching Australian football, which is an entirely different sport, and cricket predominantly, amongst other sports. But I guess my local Sydney FC went to occasionally throughout my, youth, and sort of stumbled upon Watford. I'm a huge sports nerd, huge sports fan. It was sort of calling for me to start watching a new sport. And in 2020, in end of 2019, beginning of 2020, so way more recent, and I've only supported Watford for a lot less time than most people that might, especially you guys that have lived there your entire lives. But yeah, I decided to finally start supporting an English side, and at the time, a few of my friends from Australia also decided to start following an English side up. Ditching the A-League, which is very common for Australians because the quality of the A-League in Australia, guys, it's pretty dismal. So, funnily enough, I stumbled upon Ben Foster's vlogs, which is embarrassing because I don't like him anymore. But it was more of an in, right? I sort of learnt the players' names, and it was that access behind the change rooms to like fall in love with players like Will Troost-Ekong and Will Hughes, and my favorite player at the time was Adam Messina. And we were in the we'd just been relegated at the time when I started watching, and it was just really fun to see so much behind the scenes access to the club, and I just fell in love. And at the time, a few of my mates had started following Premier League clubs, and in Australia, if someone wants to follow football in England, they definitely go for a big six team. It's sort of the way it is, because what's the point, right? Otherwise, you've got to stay up in terrible times watching a very mediocre side play. But that's sort of something that drew me even further to Watford. So whilst I've followed the club for like less than 6 years now, for the last like 3 years, I've watched 95% of games. At all times of night, all times of morning, and slowly I've just fallen in love with the sport even more. And it's just each year, because Watford is so it's such a chaotic club, and we're on the brink of something good every year, we're told, and we've seen so much promise. It's something that brings me back every year. So that's my story, but I love it. Can't get enough. Love the championship as well. It's great.
Did you play growing up? Because obviously a lot of football fans will obviously be very, very, religious and watching their side, but also like myself and Jamie have played as well. So did you ever play football, or were you into cricket or?
Yeah. As I said, I've never really played football. I played Australian football and cricket like religiously. But yeah, never really, I'm not very quick. So never really found myself any good at football, but I guess just with mates at school. It's actually the number one played like grassroots sport in Australia. So really popular, just never really played it much because I wasn't into it as a kid. So yeah.
Well, Harry and I are both strikers, and I'm not going to comment about Harry, but for me, I'm certainly not the quickest. But Harry's definitely faster than me, so we can definitely put that one on there. I wanted to ask you, Adam, about, have you ever been to Watford? Now, I know people in the UK have got specific opinions on the place and the club. What was your opinions if you came to Watford, and what was your opinions on the club?
Yeah, I've never been to Europe, so I've never been to England, never been to Watford. I'm a true abroad fan, but I'm hoping to get there next year. Yeah, it's crazy. But I've got a few, whenever one of my mates goes to England, they always, take a photo of the Watford signs. I know it's a pretty, I mean, the Vicarage Road Stadium is beautiful. From all accounts. Yeah, I've sort of, I get goosebumps every time I see them do their little promo shots and stuff. Because one day at the Vic, which I feel like no one's ever said that, but for me, it's definitely a desire to get there. But yeah, no, it seems like a decent community, and the fan base seems really great. So have to get over there soon.
So obviously, I'm not a Watford fan, but I've been with Jamie a few times to the Vic, and you know what? I felt the same goosebumps standing there before the game in the stands pre-match, and you hear the songs playing and the players walk out, and it's like it's a proper community club, it's a family club, which is what's so great about the EFL.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something that it's definitely drawn me to the EFL, and the Championship. It's a league that is so demanding, but you get a real good supporter base, family club. There's nothing quite like it. It feels real, the real essence of what sport should be. I love sport, and that's like what sport fandom should be. It's like proper care and consideration for fans, and having a proper community that's supporting the club and the players and the staff. So yeah, it seems like such great vibes there.
No, it certainly is. Even like the other day when we went to the game against Derby, I mean, Harry didn't come, but it was a good atmosphere, and obviously Derby are pushing the promotion playoffs just like Watford should be. Talk to us about this season, because Pezzolano, when he first came into the club, for me, I was bigging him up big time. He had 3 promotions in 3 separate leagues, and he seemed to me like a very aggressive manager, a very Simeone-like character, and it didn't quite go to plan, did it?
Yeah, no, it didn't quite go to plan. He's brought in and heralded by the Pozzos as the promotion specialist, so certainly a lot of promise on his shoulders. And it was pretty early on that we could tell that something possibly wasn't quite right. A few tactical decisions, are certainly a lot of his team picking and substitutions at the time didn't quite make sense. I remember on a number of occasions just being really disgruntled watching the games and thinking that his in-game tactical tweaks were just not adequate. And Watford were really struggling to start from the front, and that's something that we've seen as a pattern throughout the whole of the season, where we've fallen behind and we've had to come from behind to get points, and that's never a favourable position to be in, especially in such a demanding league and a physical league where teams can bully you out of games, no matter how where they are on the ladder. It doesn't matter, and it's certainly something that I think Pezzolano managed to. Obviously, we managed to get points from behind, but he never really managed to figure it out, and there was a lot of promise. So yeah, it didn't quite work out.
We did do our research before, obviously, the podcast today. And actually, when Pezzolano was, I think he was at Cruzeiro, obviously Serie B champions, they had the best defensive record. And I was quite optimistic that he was going to bring that and deploy that into Watford. It's a shame he never got, it never hit the ground running, I think, as much as they intended to. But I think we got the QPR game, weren't we, Jamie? And we were there. Yeah. And the mannerisms on the touchline, the intent was there. He definitely cared, and it's a shame because you see some managers where they don't put 100% heart into it, and it works. But then you see the managers who really do try and put that passion in and gee up all the players. But I don't think something just quite didn't click. I don't think.
Yeah, for sure, and I think there was also the factor that, and we've had this continuing until now, that we've had a really unstable selection for our back four, or our defense. We've had players injured in and out. We've had some new players come in. We've seen 2 loanees sort of light up the spark at Watford and really take their chances here. But that's all thrown the back four in and again under works. We still haven't really stumbled upon our best centre back pairing, let alone our fullbacks. We have had consistencies with like Mark Bowler and Gakia, who have played most of games at fullback. But yeah, I mean, certainly seeing a manager so passionate and seeing that not translated is also is really frustrating, because something's obviously, they're showing all that passion, but it's the ethic of the players to get behind the manager and their tactics. In the end, that's sort of whether it was the players not playing up to standard, which at times I feel this year has been the case, or whether it was, I guess, just not having the tactical, spark or essence that is required of this league. That could have also been in play. But yeah, something certainly wasn't right, especially at the beginning of the season. As much as we commend managers showing passion, it's a results business, and a lot of Watford fans were quickly disgruntled from Petzolano, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, at the start of the campaign, we played sides like Bore and Wood, and we drew to Wimbledon, and the results that maybe, if only we did this, if only we played a bit better, and I suppose that was the way for the majority of the season. I also found a lot of the signings pretty bizarre. Nathan Baxter, Mark Bowler, these are free transfers. Watford obviously did spend in that window, but I also feel like the players that we did bring in, like your Nathan Baxter's, he came from Bolton. We want to try and challenge for playoffs and get to the Premier League, and we're signing players that perhaps don't have the intent or shouldn't really be in a side pushing for that. So obviously players like Iran Kunda came in, and Kerngaard, which Harry and I are big admirers of. So in that window, who were the top few players that came into the side and who maybe hadn't performed to the top level as well?
Yeah, well, we've seen this for years now. Watford bringing in players that might be cheaper to bring in, more available. It's just the way that the owners operate on a profit system. We did see some players that have been brought in that have had a decent impact on the season. As you mentioned, Bowler. I've been really impressed by his season. He's been one of our players of the season for me. And then a few decent sounding signings. My man Iran Kunda, I've got a huge cutout of him actually. My Aussie boy, bit obsessed. Actually, I met him at a game. He wasn't too happy to see the Watford flag and an obnoxious Watford fan yelling at him, but it was pretty funny. But even players like him, who I've loved him for years. But has he reached the standard that we've expected of a £4 million signing? So it's or with all of the additional clauses as well. But there's a lot of players that have been brought in with a lot of I guess heralded potential, and they're brought in on cheap, and then we expect them to sell them on for a lot. And in many cases, whether it's because the managers switch so frequently and they can't get a good run at a consistent 11, or whether it's because transitioning into a league higher than them, or a league that's foreign or that they haven't played in before. A lot of them have struggled. I know Iran Kunda struggled. Bringing players in like Nathan Baxter. That's a player that hasn't played in this division. I don't know if he's played before, but he's coming from a division below. Whereas teams around us that are, especially teams in the top six, are recruiting. I think that's the thing that Watford haven't done for a number of years, recruiting from the Championship, because experience, you can't buy experience, and especially in a league that is, I've already said it multiple times today, it's so demanding, physically demanding, mentally demanding. There's 40 plus games. Away days are tough. A lot of midweek games, so you're playing a lot. You have to remain really fit and mature. And you can't buy experience, and experience in this league is really crucial. And it's something that Watford have refused to do for a number of years, because those players come at a premium, and championship players that have been around the block, might not make much profit. And that's not the model that Watford operate on. And it's not the model that will suit us if we want to take this league seriously, in my opinion. So, we can talk about individual players that have come in, but I think reflecting on the model being so not what it needs to be is sort of the more important teller for where we actually could end up in a season, because it's just the same thing every year.
Mm.
Now, I'm a big fan of Irankunda, and I think the sky's the limit for him. He can go on to achieve big things. But do you think there might be an element to his discipline side that can go against him? Because obviously he was subbed against Portsmouth, was it Portsmouth? He was subbed off early on in the first half. Obviously, he reacted badly to that. I think he was sent off a few weeks ago, if I remember correctly, as well, for a shove. Look, I mean, it's like...
Could I also just say, he got a yellow card yesterday.
Okay, what for? Generally, or something?
Just for speaking to the referee in some poor manner.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. But that's what I was going to say. Obviously, these younger players, I think, sometimes do need a bit more discipline than everyone else in the squad, just so they know where they sort of stand with the team. Because the last thing we want is these younger players to perhaps get a bit too complacent and then can prove costly in some games, like getting subbed off early, like getting a red card.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree, and I can talk about Irankunda for hours, honestly, guys. I love the fella, but there's a lot to analyze there, because as I always say, he's a huge confidence player. He's a young guy that's been Australia's superhero for a few years now, and it's sort of a product of, and we can talk about his time at Watford, but it is a product of the Australian football scene. In Australian football, we've had a few sort of talented players. I'm not sure if you've heard of Garang Kwol, or I don't know who else has been around. We've had a few, right? So talented young guys that have gone abroad with a lot of promise. And Irankunda is just the next chain off the block. And obviously, we all can see his technical ability. Actually, I first watched Irankunda when he was playing. I was watching Australia under 16s or under 15s versus Northern Mariana Islands. It was in 2022, and he was just breaking into Adelaide United, in their like reserves team and their main team and stuff. And I saw him take the ball from literally the center, like the left back position, and run the entire field and dribble around all 11 Northern Mariana Island players and then tap it in. And I was like, yeah, this guy's talented. But yeah, look, with Irankunda and a lot of young players at Watford, certainly it's a real big move, right, to a club like Watford, to playing first team 11 for a team that demands a lot from young players, but also probably doesn't support young players as well, at least to the best of their ability. We see how young our squad is, but yeah, Irankunda certainly a confidence player. You mentioned with the being substituted early in that game, it certainly affected his mental load. Then you saw him really struggling for the next few match days. And then when we see him flying, like early in the season, he scores a banging free kick, and obviously it's from a set piece. But you see the way that it affects him. And the next game, he's confident, takes another free kick and puts it in again. And he certainly started off the season flying. And at times when he has played well, it spurs him on to only do well, better in the next game. But in recent times, probably since the turn of the year, since he's been struggling to get minutes, and struggling to remain on the pitch if he does start or have a good performance, and then discipline issues with the red card, which was terrible. No short of saying that, it was ridiculous. And then the yellow yesterday. It's just more discipline issues for a young guy that should be nurtured for more by the club, and there should be a harder force down on discipline, because it demands a lot this league, and it's easy to let the screws loose, but you have to stay on ball for a young guy especially.
Well, look, we could sit here and talk about Pezzolano, but I'm sure this conversation will last longer than his whole time at the club. So, look, Javi Gracia, he came back to the club, and it was one of those things where I was a bit presumptuous about the decision, and I wasn't quite sure why. I mean, obviously, Gracia had his past. I think I would compare it to Tottenham in the sense that to be a nostalgia-chasing football club and to try and get back the memories of the past is never going to get you anywhere. So for Gracia to come back, I thought he would see out the season, and damn was I wrong. So he came back in and did what he did. and more what he didn't do. Again, I think it was the same old story with Pezzolano, just the substitutions, the team formation, the players not playing. How would you sum up his time at the club?
Yeah, certainly Javi Gracia was a whirlwind. We had some great moments under him and some real terrible moments under him. I think your point about trying to capture back old fond memories is sort of like inviting your ex back, and it's never going to work out just the same. So yeah, look, with Javi, he comes in and it takes him a little bit of time to land. I think a few of our early performances were sort of lacking, but at times we sort of saw a spark. I think with any new manager, there's a bit of a chance for players that have been either frozen out of the side or struggling to put in a good effort in training and then try and break into the side. From memory, we had a few injuries throughout his tenure. So with him working with an inconsistent side, that it didn't support him. But also, I think the fact of bringing a manager that knows the club so well is when he last operated at Watford, he had completely different profile of players, some real good players as well in the club. So for him to walk back in and then have to really manage a club and a side that have been struggling this season and haven't had some of our players click with each other. Obviously, pretty tricky for the manager. We saw that he left on personal reasons. But yeah, look, Javi Gracia, so many ups and downs. We saw what happened in December. That's the upside of getting a manager back that has experience in the league, because he knows how to do it, and if he hits a good run of form, there's the management skills to keep the team going. But I was really disappointed to see a huge drop off, and whether it was you mentioned substitutions, and the way that he sort of lined up the club in his famous formation that he loved to stick to. He loved it. Whether that was really letting us down for January and then before February before he left, or whether it was because something happened internally, and he decided to give up so easily, and that's sort of that was interesting. It was interesting to see, and I as you said, I don't think many people really expected him to not last the season, especially with the quality and how the club was sort of hyping him up as this quality manager. We've seen him before. So yeah, interesting tenure.
You spoke about ups and downs, and there was certainly a big up was when you beat Middlesbrough 3-0. That was a massive statement win. Obviously, we've seen when Middlesbrough are in the league now. They're high-flying. They're one of the favourites to go up, to get promoted. A clean sheet, 3 goals, a Kurumgard brace, Imran Loser scoring. Dream day, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that game fondly. And that's the time that the Watford fans start to think, oh, could we? And there's that moment every season. And we did put a really good run there. It was the four wins in a row. And we were about to travel to Hull, and then 10 minutes before the game, they've called it off. Famous day in all Watford fans' memories. But whether the club didn't have it in them to continue, but or the players or something fell off. Something fell off the wheels, and I, as someone that likes to talk at length about Watford, I've had a lot of time to think about what went wrong, and I still haven't really stumbled upon the answer in my mind. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think, and but also I would say that with all of the 4 wins in a row and the good times that Watford has, seems that we reach that every year. There's always that period of time where we and I admittedly most teams sort of have bad form, but Watford always have horrific form at some point that's long term, and we've had that now that's crashed our season. So typical Watford form, I guess.
No, well, it's correct. I mean, at the start of the season, every side is buzzing for the new campaign. Can we beat this side? And everyone, from what I can understand, unless you're like a Norwich, you want to go up, right? And you want to get promoted, and you think you can do it. And for Watford, I think that was the way for the start of the season. I think under Pezzolano, as we alluded to earlier, that he was the right man, in my opinion. And it came into Gracia, and I just thought that the wheels were half falling on the bus. The good thing about the EFL is if Watford win 75% of their last fixtures, which is never going to happen, but if they did, Watford are going to go into the playoffs without a doubt. So this is the great thing about it. But yeah, no, I would say that it's been a disappointing couple of weeks, couple of months, and I think what fell in form, I just think was Gracia lost the dressing room. I love Imran Louza. I think he's a wonderful player, but at times, I think everyone knows that he's leaving at the end of the season. I think Chatvidadze was just the weirdest of situations ever. We didn't hear about him for months. And was he back? Was he not back? What was going on? Just a lot of grudges being held. And obviously, we did see Tom Ince come on and get a hat trick under Gracia and whatever it was. But I think it was disappointing in that sense. Look, this team's a very good team. So we're going to go through your ideal 11. So talk to us about your formation, and then we'll go through each position. I'll list them off, and then you can give us who you'd start and where.
Yeah, that's a good question. Had a lot of time to look at a bunch of 11s from Watford. Formation's a good question. I certainly like. We've seen a front two a lot of the time this year with either Kurumgard and Doumbia at times early on, or Iran Kunda playing off him, and I think that can work, but I don't mind either a 4-4-3 or a 4-2-3-1. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that with players in the dressing room, especially our midfielders stock right now, with Imran Louza, Bove, Cipriano, players that have good quality as either holding or sort of box to box midfielders. It's tricky to fit them all in one side, but we want to. I think for me, we can go through all the positions. So let's just go through all the positions actually. So I guess in goalkeeper, Egil Selvik, who didn't have his best game, I've heard, against Ipswich, but he's been good. I've been impressed with his time at Watford. I think any keeper we brought in as a first choice keeper after Dan Backman for me personally is a good keeper. A lot of Watford fans probably agree with that. It was just uncomfortable watching Dan play. I don't know whether he was a nice guy, but certainly on the field, he lacked authority and decision making at times really clouded over his shot stopping ability. But Egil Selvik's been pretty good this year. I still worry every time he goes to take a high ball because he's not the biggest, most commanding guy in goals. But some of his reaction saves have kept us in games at times. And I've been impressed overall with his distribution as well. I mean, usually he just feeds it off to and we build up from the back. But been impressed with him. So starting goalkeeper, Egil Selvik. At left back, we've seen Mfuni play the last, 2 games now. So got a big decision to make. Maybe it's a bad decision, but I'm going to stick with Mark Bowler. I think Mark Bowler has the experience and the know-how in most games. Defensively, he's been so reliable this year, for most of the year at least. He's definitely had some off moments, but he's been one of our most consistent players. I think it'd be unfair to not have him in my 11. He's at times been our only creative outlet, and at times our best defender on the pitch as well. He came in as sort of a second choice left back under Caleb Wiley, and as Caleb Wiley struggled to build his time at Watford and then got injured. Bowler's presented himself as such a reliable option. So I'll stick with Bowler there. I still question his final ball. There was a number of games in a row where he had so many crosses into the box, and looking at his crossing stats, I think he had over 2 games. I think he had 15 crosses and 2 were accurate. And it's just, at that point, what's going on? We're getting these balls into the box, or we're progressing so much up the left, and then there's no final product. But at the same time, he's so potent. He's been so consistent. So he's my left back there. Centre back pairing. God, we've seen so many throughout the year. It's probably easier to pick who I wouldn't have than who I would. I think James Abankwah's really stood out in the last few weeks. Yeah. His maturity for such a young guy is. I think people forget how young he is, and his ability on the ball is so impressive. But his ability to put in a good challenge or a last important challenge and keep a clean sheet or prevent any other pressure on some of our younger defenders as well. It's been great to see. So I have a James Abankwah in there, probably at right centre back. God, we've seen so many other centre backs. I'm gonna put Mfuni there. I think not that he's probably a better left back than he is a centre back, for me at least, because he does like to run around a lot. But I've been so impressed with him coming in after Elaine left. We all knew how good Max Elaine was, and he had such a huge impact on the club and on the fan base in the short time he was here. So a lot of pressure was put on Mfuni as the other City player coming in. But you can see all the City Academy skills and quality in Mfuni. He's got such immense talent that the sky's the limit, I swear. He's technically really, really, really good. With the ball at his feet, he's so confident for he's just turned 18. It's kind of crazy. Pretty embarrassing, right? For us, maybe, seeing this 18-year-old.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mfuni for me, left centre back. Then at right back, I guess Ngakia. He's had off moments this year, but I don't think we've sort of reached a solid option at right back for me. I would probably put even Abankwah as at right back before Petrie, maybe. I know Petrie was
very good,
at least in switch. But Petrie, he's been seen as a winger. But Ngakia's been our mainstay right back for so many years now. So we'll chuck him in there with not too much comment. He's had his good moments this year. And then we'll jump into the midfield. Imran Leizer, who Jamie said, he's an important player. Obviously, he started the season as one of the best players, not at Watford, but in the entire league for me, at least. So he dictates the way that we play when he decides to show up. And certainly, if he plays well, Watford tend to play well, and also vice versa as well. So with such an important role, dropping back and supporting the back four or the defenders with build-up play in possession, and then his ability to win the ball back high or in the middle of the pitch, and it's been really impressive. And we know what he can do when he has the ball at his feet. He's magical when he's on. So yeah, Imran Leizer. But I've been also impressed with Cipriano this year. I know he's been injured, and a lot of he did have a struggling few weeks there where he was dropped from the side, and he had some real poor performances. But once again, a talent that was brought into the club from a lower league, a lower division. So, but we know that he's the quality. The quality is there, and that he can play at this level. So for me, Cipriano, we haven't seen much of Bove, but we know how good he is if he's fit and firing. So hopefully he does reach that level. But I guess a midfield 3 Yeah, that works, right? 4,
Yeah.
3. Yeah. So yeah, look, Leizer, Cipriano, and Bove in whatever formation, the three you want to have it. I would probably put maybe Leizer and Cipriano as more of a holding, and then Bove, let him roam. We know that he's capable with the ball at his feet, but also I know he's played sort of in a more holding position at times in his time in Italy and abroad. And then moving straight onto the wingers. I know I'm going on a long spiel, but I might as well. The wingers we've seen countless different rotations. For me personally, Barr deserves way many more minutes than he's getting currently. He's so potent when he's on the ball, but I think Othman Amama's come in and completely torn up to shreds any sort of competition that might be coming for him for his spot in the 11. He's such a talented player. I mean, it's a joke that he's playing in this division. Really, he is so he's just got it all. He really has it all. Off the ball, on the ball, he can track back and help out. And then going forward, he's brilliant. He's really, really talented. I don't have to be the one that goes on and on about him. We all can see it. So off Man and Mama, I would have starting left-hand side probably. And then, God, there's a bit of a fight for who gets to start. We've seen Chak Fatadze, now that he is playing, he gets a few minutes. But also I haven't been so impressed in recent times with Chak Fatadze. He's had his moments, but I don't know, guys. I you know what? I think with all the drama, I would start Kwabo Bar. I think he needs a bit more. He's definitely an impact player. But if I want to win a game, and I think something that Watford's been struggling with is starting from the front and scoring that first goal. I want players that can tear it up from the start, and it's certainly not an option that maybe all others will choose, and it's certainly something that Javi didn't choose, and now Ed still continues not to choose. But having a player that has the goal scoring ability that can tear up a defense from minute one, I would give that a spin. And I think Kwabo Bar needs a bit. Needs that confidence, and the confidence from the manager instilled in him to do well. So having him from the start, sure, give him a go, sub him off, and if he's not fit at halftime, maybe hook him there, 60 minutes, give him a run. But yeah, I'll have him on the right, and then up front, I know you guys are big Kurumgard fans. I don't know if I want to deviate from that one, but look, for me, I think Mamadou Doumbia. I like what he does off the ball. And I think that he gives it all every week. And maybe not a popular option. I know you guys are Kurumgard fans, and he had a good game against Derby. I like a more agile player that can run around and help support out. And I think that's what Doumbia provides. I'm sort of in the Bio style, except he's way better with the ball, and he can score goals. So that's my 11. Sorry for such a long-winded 11 there. But there you go.
That's the thing with Watford, is on paper, it's an unbelievable squad. Like, obviously, you look at squads like Wrexham, and they've done a good bit of business. Obviously, they have got the money. And Middlesbrough, they've not spent too much. They've sort of trusted the squad they've got. They've brought in Luke Ayling, who for experience has been fantastic. Coventry have kept pretty much the same 11 for a good few seasons. They've trusted the process. They've built sort of never had a rebuild. They just built the momentum going with the same squad. So you look at Watford's squad, I think there's a lot of quality in Watford's squad. Definitely, in my opinion, probably on paper again, the most quality in the whole division. Teams like Hull, massively overachieving under a great new manager, by the way, really doing really well. Derby doing really well as well. Look, I said to Jamie before, the Championship is so tight. You can have two wins in a row, and you're pushing for the playoffs. Then if you lose two, then you're going to be back down the other end. So it's a very crazy league. In my opinion, it's the best league in the world. But it just goes to show how nothing's ever, anyone could beat anyone in the Championship.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, 100%. We see it every week that there's upsets or unexpected results. But as you mentioned, there's so many teams that are in false positions right now. Teams with players that that should not even belong. Yeah, should belong in leagues much higher than this that are struggling in the Championship. And for Watford, it's a team on paper that, as you said, is world beating. Seriously talented players in this squad, and if they all click together, I mean, the levels of a lot of our players are definitely beyond the Championship, but we're still struggling, and that's because there's a lack of consistency in both the players available, but also the managers, and then tactics have changed time and time again. But it's such a demanding league, and at the end of the day, the Championship, scrappy goals happen, unexpected goals happen, mistakes happen, and then players that you think are pretty crap have crazy games, and they just go and can tear up a club, and it's sort of just a flip of the dice at the end of the day. So we've had some terrible results, but that's sort of the nature of the Championship in that way. Yeah.
Has someone got some parrots? And I hear parrots.
Yeah, we got some birds. We got some birds out this morning. The morning bird chirping around. It's a good morning here in Australia. So yeah.
Well, no, Australia's known for animals. A quick one though, away from Watford, is I think a lot of people are put off to go to Australia because of all the snakes and the bugs and the spiders. Could you talk us out of that? Is it as bad as what they say?
Oh, guys, don't worry about it. I think I've probably seen 2 snakes in my life.
Oh wow!
There are lots of the spiders here. Not too bad. Just don't go near them if you see one. No, it's not. It's honestly, it's a beautiful country. I've done a lot of exploring around Australia. I mentioned I haven't been to Europe, but I've traveled. I've done road trips around Australia. Seen all the sites. If you guys get a chance, I know it's a long, expensive flight, but book yourself a month in and just go exploring and traveling. It's a beautiful place, and as much as people hype up, there's a terrible, dangerous animals, and I wouldn't recommend maybe swimming in the ocean if there's no flags or lifeguards, or there are shark issues and stuff, but. Not to scare you guys. It is a beautiful country. You come and explore.
No,
it's great
for sure. Talk to us about maybe maybe Watford is a nicer place than Australia. Who actually knows? No, it's definitely not. Talk to us about Will Steele's brother, Edward Steele. Now I say that because obviously we all think that Will Steele probably turned down this job, and who's surprised? Talk to us about the guy's reign so far. Apparently he was at the game against Derby the other day, so it's a family affair at the club.
Well, there you go. It was so funny. It's the most Watford fashion. Seeing Ed Steele announced. You go on and you look at the favorite, who's favorite to win the role at the club, and Will Steele was the number one favorite for maybe a week or a few days at least. And you're looking at some of the managers on that list, and you're just thinking this is not a Watford appointment. These are managers, whether they. It's not the Watford way to sort of recruit a manager that has experience or that has talent, and it's just some of our appointments have been really crazy. Left wing, sort of like out of left wing, left field, and Ed Steele was that for the club. We've got in a manager that hasn't really. I mean, we've seen all his managerial stats, but he hasn't really had the experience. At any level, really, and to see the name Ed Steele, and then figure out that it was Will Steele's brother. It's the most Watford thing ever. So many negative reactions. People thinking, oh yeah, he's got until March. He's got 2 weeks, and then he's going to be sacked. But yeah, look, he's come in with not a good managerial record, to say it lightly. He's had three spells as head coach in Belgium, and a terrible win loss record, but also just not clubs that have had any reputation of any sort. Not that really matters, but I remember I looked at one of his stats at a club forgotten the name now, but he comes in as the head manager for the start of the 2023 campaign, and he played the first. It was in the Belgium league, and he was manager for the first 8 games, and they lost 6 and drew 2, and then they sacked him. They brought in a new manager, and the new manager in the next 3 games went on to beat Club Bruges and Circle Bruges, who were like 2 of the best clubs in the league. And this was not a big club that he was coaching.
Yeah.
So it just, that doesn't really instill, not to make a pun, any confidence in any. So yeah, it was just a crazy appointment for Watford. It really was.
I do have to say, first of all, that pun was fantastic. I
knew
really
you'd
enjoyed
like
that one. Yeah, that's going to be one that I'm going to be saying for the next few days now. That's fantastic. But look, as frustrating as it is when any manager comes in and results don't go their way, and it's a big case of you win one, you lose one, you draw one, you lose one, then you win one again. As a Spurs fan, Thomas Frank was very, very much, win, lose, draw, but then a lot of losses. But if you look at Arsenal, I hate to mention them, obviously our North London rivals, but they trusted Arteta for years and years and years, and they have now got to that stage where they're starting to look, absolutely fantastic in Champions League. So I do think, obviously, look, he's hardly been around at Watford at the moment still, but if things don't go too badly, I do think there's an element where you do have to try and trust a manager for a good few months, whether it be a season, 2 or 3, because the last thing you want at any club is to keep repeating the same process of hire a new manager, get frustrated and then sack them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the Watford model. That's what it's been, and that's why it's been why we've never sort of, in my opinion, reached our potential under the owners that we have. The fact that they might not support a manager, we can talk about that separately. But the managers have immense pressure from the second they take a job, and that's why we haven't attracted the likes of a seasoned championship manager that's gone around, done it, or a manager with big potential. That's why we haven't got those guys in, because it's not an attractive job realistically. Managers being sacked all the time. We're known as the joke club of sacking a manager every few months, few weeks, whatever you want to say it, what do you want to call it? But it's certainly a job that shouldn't be so transitionary. Shouldn't be that way. If you want to, it's the same as like a business. You can't just sack the CEO or someone important in the club in the business and expect expect it all to go well until you find the right person. You need to put faith and trust and time into a system, into a manager, and it's something that we haven't done. The longest a manager's had has been Tom Cleverley. What did he have, a year and a bit? Yeah. Something like that. And he's a manager that I would have loved to see, and I know a lot of Watford fans would have loved to see, even longer from Tom. And someone that if you give him the keys to the club for a longer period of time, can start to build an identity. And that's something that Watford's lacked, with all the chopping and changing of the backroom, the staff, and the manager, it's hard to think that these days the manager has much of a role at the club. It's more that the players need to turn up and play well. And we've seen 3 managers this season. I can't remember how many we saw last season. Might have been 3 again. Who knows? Can't remember. But it's been 15, 16 managers in the last 5-6 years. And that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a terrible job to take. And it's not going to lead to good results. I think we all can sort of see how that one's going for the club. So put faith into the managers.
Exactly.
It needs to project. Yeah.
Isn't it mad that Watford sent out Imran Leizer on loan only a few seasons back, and then Cleverley came in and did what he did? I completely agree, and I think it's absolutely ludicrous. It's laughable. It is every word under the sun that Ed Still signed a 2.5-year contract. I mean, I don't remember any manager at Watford that has been there for 2.5 years. And it's pretty embarrassing because I don't know how much the guy's on. But, I mean, what would you say a championship manager's on? 10 grand a week, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
So why would you not just go ahead and invest that into the side? It is unbelievable. Surely, if anything, if you think he's going to be the man for 2.5 years, you say here's a year deal, and if you get this amount of wins, you get an extra year. I think that's the right thing to do. But look, this season's been a very odd campaign, and where do you see Watford finishing? Because it literally could be anywhere in that league table.
Yeah, that's right. At times, you think, yeah, we could, contend for automatic promotion early in the season, December. Look, that's the way that we were trending. And then, for most of the other parts of the season, it's can we contend for the top 6? But touching on your point, we have to pay out the contract if we sack the man, right? It's so much money has gone towards paying managers out, and that's, as you said, money that doesn't go back into investing in the players or in the club or even the facilities. But yeah, look, Watford, you could probably throw a dart at the league table and see where it lands. I'd say that in looking at teams' form around us, for me, it's going to be hard for us to reach the top 6 now. I think that's probably unrealistic, if I'm going to be honest. I think I'm looking at teams, as you mentioned earlier, Hull, Wrexham, Middlesbrough, Coventry, and Ipswich. Those are teams that I would have in my top 6, five of 6 teams, probably that I would have pretty solidly in my top 6 towards the end of the season. Millwall have been in good form this year. We know how they played when Watford played them early in the season. They looked really good, which is different to the last few years we played Millwall, although they always seem to have us. But yeah, there's a bunch of teams that are now reaching form, and it's the time of the year that you need to be reaching form. And there's realistically there's teams that are much better, stronger than Watford right now, and have the mental difference. And whether we have the quality over them, if you're going man for man, 9 for 9, 11 for 11, looking at the players. Whether Watford have better players on paper, it's whether we can execute that, and I don't think we can. For me, 12th right now, that's probably a position I see us finishing in. Yeah, we're 12th, which is shocking, both because, I feel like we've been in terrible form and somehow we're still 12th, but also we were doing so well and now we've fallen to 12th. So certainly a mid-table club. That's the way we're playing right now. And I don't see us really moving anyway, up or down too much. I'll have us finishing in 11th for me. 11th, one position above where we are right now. Having the chance.
So last one from me then is, okay, so if Watford unfortunately don't get promoted this season, how many players, and who in particular, aside from Imran Leizer, do you see moving on next season?
Oh, wow. I mean, look, with the number of players that deserve not to play in this league, it could be a max exodus. I think we've heard a lot about Imran Leizer, one of his best mates, Othman Amama, probably another player that you expect to move on to bigger and better places. Players like Eduardo Bove, who's on, I mean, still confused about what the extent of his deal is, but a player with immense potential. If he was playing at such a high level before his injury or medical episode, so he's a player that could leave. Also, a player that I would expect to look elsewhere. Maybe Georgie Chakvetadze's played at the club for a while now. A player that's really struggled at Watford, I think, because I think he's in the last few years been he's shown such immense talent. He's almost there, but I don't think he sort of fits the Watford style. And I mean, if I was him, I would be looking elsewhere. And there's just so many other players in that same respect. It's a miracle that Pierre Duomo is still sort of at the club. Someone, Nampalys Mendy, someone that with so much, I guess, experience, someone that's only just broken into the side. Once again, a miracle he's still at the club. Someone that I think would be looking elsewhere. And then players that have really struggled to fit into our team. Kevin maybe looking elsewhere. But once again, there's a lot of players that have been in and out of the side throughout the whole year, so it's tough to know where they're at right now, and I haven't looked too closely at some of the contracts, but certainly this year was heralded as a promotion season. This is it. This is promotion. We're bringing in a promotion specialist, Petzolano. We've got some. We're going to invest in some players, and we brought in some players that admittedly have done. Some of them have done all right, but hasn't panned out that way. I don't expect it will pan out with promotion. Think it's pretty unrealistic to assume that could be, a likely option. So for me, if I'm a player that's been brought in and sold the dream of promotion, as I'm sure most of the players have sat down with the Pozzo, Gino, and he's told them so much about our big Premier League dreams. For me, it's time to look elsewhere. So a lot of players could leave. Who knows what will happen, honestly. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And you look at the loan players as well. There's like 4 or 5 players on the side, at least, that are on loan contracts, and they will 100% be going and not coming back for sure. My last question is the all-important one. Firstly, how many more games? I mean, we could do games. We could do months. Let's do months. How many more months has Ed still got left in the job? Secondly, how many months, how many years, how many days until you come to Vicarage Road?
Yeah, great questions. So Ed Still, I mean, does he have until the end of the season? I mean, it would be ludicrous to not give him until the end of the season.
Oh, wow. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that would seriously be embarrassing. It's funny to joke about, he's got a few games, and then we'll sack him. But I mean, he's on a 2.5-year deal. The club should at least have him until the beginning of, give him a transfer window to sort of sort his style out. I mean, he's coming after 2 managers. It's not it's a completely different side to what if he had started the season, to what would he might have built. Whether he has any impact on or influence over the transfers that come in and out, it's another story. We know the way that the owners operate, and whether they back or don't really support a manager and their wishes. But certainly Ed Still needs to have until the end of the year. I would love to see him have a full transfer period, and then start next season with a refreshed and probably a less strong on paper side, I'd imagine. But a side that has been had a full preseason with him and his staff. So for me, hopefully he has. Hopefully it's 2.5 years. It all goes rosy, but that's not the way it works at Watford. I'd expect him to at least have until hopefully halfway through next season. That's hopeful. So that's the length I would have, hopefully, for Ed Still. But it would just be so embarrassing if he didn't last the season. That would just be terrible. Really would. I mean, God, it's terrible. And then second question, I've applied for exchange to England. So hopefully in a year's time, I will be living in England for a few months. Then I'd get to come to Watford. I was actually looking, and it was a bit embarrassing because in December, Watford, we've had the 4 wins, and I'm looking for prices for playoff fixtures in May. I've looked for flight prices to England, and it was very premature. I remember sitting there and thinking, we couldn't, could we? And then seeing the prices definitely turned me off because they're terrible. And I'm a uni student, so definitely can't afford any of the flights right now. Hopefully I'll be at the Vic early February, late January 2027. And they'll go to as many games as I can because I might as well. But it's always been a dream for the last few years. So got to get to Watford, to Vicarage Road, and watch a game with you lads.
No, of course. Well, look,
definitely.
I think Harry's a bit further away next year, aren't you, H? But I'll certainly come down, and I don't know if Harry wants to make that a weighted journey.
I'll do my absolute best to come. 100%. It'd be brilliant to have the 3 of us all there.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to cheer. We'll have to get some few chants going in the McDonald's, that'll be great. Look,
if your anchor is still there, I'll bring my.
Provided he's still there, because he's probably going to be one of the ones to go.
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Look, Adam, the last thing I'd say is more of a statement. Is in Watford, there's quite a lot of food choices. You've got your Taco Bell, you've got your Wagamama, you've got your Mackie D's. So there's plenty of food choices. So I just wanted to make you well aware of that. So you'll absolutely be suited and booted. But apart from that, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. What an absolute pleasure it's been. And thank you very much for coming on so early on in the morning, and have a great day and a great rest of the season and beyond.
Thanks, lads. I appreciate it. And it was good fun. Thanks for bearing with me in my terrible time zone and accent. So all the best, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.